Arr, grog.
Hey everyone, it's a Sideshow podcast. I'm Peter Fickling, and as always, I'm joined by Keri and Matthew Weir. Guys, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, very good. How are you?
Top of the world. Yeah, I've had a Thursdays. I get to spend a lot of time with my little boy, so I got to be terrified watching him perch at the top of a giant climbing frame with no ability to reach him. But
This happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think he's trying to get away from Peter. Yeah.
he does a terrifyingly good job at getting away from me. And so now I'm very much glasses half full. Look at my kind of a prodigiously capable little climbing boy, rather than before I would just sort of try and hide my terror.
That's good that he's doing that. Yeah, to be encouraged.
As people have heard me do many times, I'm more than happy to take my lead from Warbis Towers when it comes to good parenting.
I'm now imagining you, Peter, at the foot of this climbing frame, sort of with your knees knocking together and crying, whilst he's like the adult up above.
Do you remember there was a trend in the 1990s for kind of very baggy trousers?
Mm.
And I had to do a big speech on stage in front of just hundreds of people at the BBC, and I was wearing these kind of trendy at the time sort of baggy flannel trousers, and I could feel my knees touching either edge of the trouser fabric. They were shaking so wildly. And I got off stage, and my colleagues were kind of like, "Wow, you were so calm," but I couldn't believe how I faked it. I was absolutely bricking it.
Great. The baggy trousers just disguised your nervousness.
Maybe this is I need to get the fashion back, because it worked then. My addiction to lycra is giving me no room to, no room to
Those spandex pants you go to work in now they're never going to hide
very forgiving, are they?
Yeah, they won't belie your nervous state.
What people might not know is that we never have the webcams on. It's always just audio. So could Keri and Matthew give good pod with the sight of me jiggling around inside a sack of lycra every week? I doubt they could.
Well, the temperatures have finally dropped here, so we could turn cams on. I'm no longer topless.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, that would no. Let's not risk it, Keri.
No, thank you. No, I would, but my bandwidth doesn't cope with it. But I might treat myself to a new laptop in the new year, so it could be cams on, lycra akimbo, anything goes.
At least it's an alternative revenue stream as well. We can kind of cam it up, sell it on the dark web.
Just to circle back to your original question, Peter, I'm good too. I've been looking after multiple children, but I get to give them back.
Yeah, and get money for it as well.
Yeah, I know.
So do you think subconsciously our kind of rather unusual, uncharacteristically long sort of early pod ramble is a kind of unconscious desire to avoid talking about what was, for me, quite a problematic week?
Peter, every week is problematic for you.
Keri's saying what I'm thinking here.
Am I too curmudgeonly?
You are a bit. Let's change things up a bit. What did you love or like about the week? Let's start there.
Okay, so I guess it's kind of muscle memory. There is a sort of, even if I know it's nonsense, there is a kind of sort of like familiar buzz from hearing Oliver and Eddie sort of do their act, sort of like roll out the old shtick. I did quite enjoy hearing Harrison being told off and hear him crawling to Mom. And I think I got it wrong, but I believed that Natasha was playing everyone on Bridge Farm and it was all a big act. I thought it was all she was trying to wind them up to kind of pay Tom back.
Oh, I think she was doing that for sure. Yeah.
But she's carrying it all the way through, because she was talking to Adam about it as well.
Yeah, I think it might have begun as a bit of a wind up, right, I'll show you. And now she's just running with it and going, well, if you're going to walk over me in this way, I'm going to really take it to its furthest end and get what I want out of it. And I bloody love her for that.
And there was that slight arrogance of Helen at the beginning of the week when she was talking to John, and she went, well, she doesn't understand aspects of farming, she doesn't get cows, and she doesn't understand aspects of our family. And it's like, I think Natasha's just looked at it and just thought, what a dysfunctional bunch we've got here. Let's just play one off against the other. It's almost Game of Thrones-esque, like she's pulling all the strings.
And Helen's tone at that point was really brilliantly horrific, I thought. And when she was saying that, I was thinking, hang on a minute, how about Lee? Does he get farming much? Not really.
I'd love to see Lee try his hand at farming. He comes back with an arm missing. Helen, I've had a problem with the combine harvester.
I mean, I know he's not really trying to get farming much, but I just thought, yeah, she sounded awful, Helen, at that moment. But yeah, Natasha, good on her. She seems to be wanting to put her fruit press attached to any dwelling she can come across. Really, she's with a laser measurer.
Yeah, other than the packing shed, isn't it? She's got something against the packing shed.
Oh yeah,
She's walking around with these. You know, in that movie Aliens, where they all drop onto that planet and they've all got laser guided gun sights coming through the mist. That's how I imagine Natasha is wandering around the farm, just going in and out of buildings, sizing them up.
I mean, for a family who are so dedicated to their business and nothing, you know, like the brand, the famous Bridge Farm brand, does it not seem reasonable that one of the family's business interests is slightly more important than Tony's train set?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she put the willies up him, didn't she? Because she just walked in and just went, "Nice train sets, Tony. Would be a shame if something was to happen to all of them." And then he went to Pat, and Pat was, had to be mother to him and just say, "Well, she can't do anything unless we let her."
I know. Tony was awful. I quite liked how Natasha was saying that she really liked the little trees and the little things around the sides of the train tracks. But essentially, yeah, she was sussing out where her fruit press would be going. And I was just interested in his the tractor that she was saying, oh, couldn't that just go in the machine room or machine shed? He was like, no, it's a classic Fordson Major. And I looked them up on eBay. They do exist. They are proper old school tractors, like you would have as a child. I don't know, in the 50s or something. I thought
it was going to be far darker than that, and that was the one that crushed John.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I think someone on Twitter did point out that it was a different type. Maybe it was a Massey Ferguson or something.
Well, people are probably podders, pod listeners who know the Archers historically better than me will remember. But there was a gaff on the wedding day of Tom and Kirsty, wasn't it? That the tractor that they took him around the town in was the same model as the one that had crushed John.
Brilliant.
I mean, it was never going to go well after that, was it?
Oh, yeah, that is doomed, isn't it? But they're $3,000 on eBay, those classic Fordson Majors.
Oh, I might get one.
The Fordson Super Major is about double the price, in case you were even considering one of those.
That's when you really want to pull, isn't it?
Oh, and also, sorry, when he said, I take it out on special occasions. What is a special occasion where you take your tractor out? For Tony, what does he mean?
I don't know.
Does he take it out for dinner or something?
Yeah, when he's going down to Underwoods to buy some new underwear.
I just had visions of him on this tractor for a special occasion.
I guess maybe, when he's every now and again, maybe the first week of the harvest or something. Very strange.
What, and he takes it out into his own field and then puts it back again, not careering around lanes.
He's not doing drive-bys around Ambridge, is he? I mean, he probably could in a tractor. Harrison would never catch him.
Along the bypass.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard anything more pathetic than at the end when Tony, they were kind of like they were sort of moving on, they were all moving back into the house, and he's like, I'll just get the trains back into the sheds.
Yeah, I've got to get it somewhere and into the siding. I thought, just lift it up, you prick, and put it in.
Exactly.
It was Pat again, though, wasn't it? She went, half an hour. Did you hear me, Tony? He was like, yeah, I've just got to get them all back around the tracks. I was like, can't you just pick them up? You are like
Exactly.
you're basically like Gulliver. Just pretend you're Godzilla and pick the train up and like. Roar.
But
That's what I do.
I mean, he's a very pathetic man, isn't he? At times, and you can sort of almost hear his dick sort of shrinking up into his body when anyone sort of tries to. I don't know.
That's been in its siding for 30 years.
Yes, because he also said to Natasha that Pat suggested I put my train track not out of the house and into this shed. And you thought, suggested? Yeah, I can just imagine what Pat's idea of suggesting something is.
Natasha said something to that effect, didn't she? Was like, oh, did she?
Yeah.
I bet she did.
Oh dear. Yeah, Pat's awful. That awful, the lunch she was preparing, that I wish we'd been privy to a bit more to round the dinner table. Can you imagine being at that table with Pat hosting and the frostiness and them really bristling about Natasha and Helen and Lee sitting there? Oh,
yeah, well,
God.
even prior to the meal, there was that mention the fact that Helen was gonna go and round up Lee and the boys. And I had this vision of them all running wild in the field, and them having to get Bess, the sheepdog, to bring them all back in, like scurrying with their tongues hanging out the left-hand side of their mouth across the field.
There's so much side about everybody. Natasha she was being quite pleasant, actually. She was being nice to Tony about the miniature trees and what have you. She then went into the kitchen and said, anything I can do? And Pat said, oh, you could lay the table. And Pat sort of went, Helen was supposed to do that, but she's somehow got sidetracked.
Yes. Yeah, there's an edge, isn't there?
Yeah, always.
It's not a happy house.
No.
Sorry, the thing about Natasha is that you don't have to wonder what her agenda is. You don't have to wonder what she's thinking or what she's up to. She's told everyone, I want these spaces for, my business, whether or not it's to wind Tom up or not is a different matter. But all of them, it's all duplicitous and two-faced and scheming, all within this tiny little business and this tiny little family, how they can all have these different agendas. You'd think that it would be very... Anyway, I'm just saying, like I do... Keri, you and I have talked about the value of honesty many, many times. I think Matthew has as well.
Yeah.
And, Natasha, no one needs to worry. What you see is what you get. And actually, even though it sounds quite awkward when you hear her kind of arguing with Sausage Boy, again, like he doesn't have to... If he's in a doghouse, he knows he's in a doghouse. If he's in a good books, he knows. So what a nice life.
I know.
Apparently, Tom has come round to Natasha's way of thinking, which means she's chipping away and she's already got him on side. But last week, it was almost like she was being dragged down there under duress, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so now she's decided, well, if you're going to do this, then you're going to do it on my terms, but it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts.
I know. I mean, why can't they just speak about it?
Well, as Adam said, obstructive family. He could write a book on obstructive family members. You'd have to chop him down first and then turn him into paper.
Do you think that was the theme of the week? Was just like you had all these different plots where people just were not being straight when they could have been. So, for instance, you had Oliver Oliver missed the opportunity to be straight with Eddie, and then of course you had Lynda and Kirsty being, first of all, let's take it seriously. Let's not even bother with how ridiculous it was, but like, unless you want to, but just this ridiculous attempt to sort of like railroad Roy's holiday plans for a stupid Christmas panto or whatever it's called.
Yeah. And, all of it's like that, isn't it, really? Eddie not listening to Clary, and none of them are, I was going to say none of them are straight talking people, but you've just said that Natasha is, but hardly any of the main Archer's family, other main characters are straight. And I mean straight as in direct.
Maybe Ruth. I'm reaching, aren't I?
I mean, I was
trying to think about it.
How would you react if you found out that a colleague that had gone to the boss and was actively trying to f up your holiday?
Oh God!
I would kill them. I mean, in 1999, I had a colleague had a all singing, all dancing trip to the Sydney Olympics booked for 2000. And coming up towards the end of the year, our boss said to her that she couldn't go on it. And I remember and she cancelled her holiday. She cancelled this trip of a lifetime. And I remember being absolutely incandescent with rage on her behalf that she could have this trip taken from her by her work, which she'd booked in good faith months before. So that's how angry I was about, on behalf of someone else. So I don't know how angry I would be.
Well, can you please kill Lynda in that case, Peter?
So is she?
You can choose your method.
She is the godmother of all of this, you think, obviously, because she's sending Kirsty out to do this dirty work.
There's a whole list of times where Lynda was an absolute, you know what I would like to say there, but perhaps I won't. It begins with C, anyway.
Curmudgeon.
That's it. Because when Roy said he was going to his dad's for New Year's, she said, "But you must cancel." Oh, that's a nice reaction, isn't it? That's normal. She then told Kirsty, "I feel utterly betrayed. What's so attractive about Birmingham at New Year? Awful."
I did like the fact that Kirsty came back and said, "Well, that's Judas for you."
Yes, that was great. To Lillian, she said, first of all, Bert's died. And now Judas is insisting on spending New Year with his family. Horrific. To Kirsty, she said she insists she'll see her later, even though Kirsty was trying to say she wasn't available. And then didn't listen to Roy and just went something like, "Now you've let us down so badly." And he went, "Well, actually, I haven't. I was coming to tell you that I'm going to be here." So she is horrendous this week. I cannot bear her.
And we definitely got a nod that she had called Mike and, wangled him or dangled the offer of a cheap room to try and
That was
persuade
Oliver,
him.
though.
That was Oliver that did that.
Oliver did that. Oliver was a darling, and he did that off his own back.
Oh, I thought Lynda I thought that had been Lynda's fine works.
No. There was nothing fine about Lynda this week. Nothing.
The thing about that as well, just quickly, when Oliver left that call for Mike, if your son's employer calls you out of the blue and says, "It's Oliver Sterling here, call me back as soon as you can," you basically think your son's dead, don't you?
I know. Yeah.
Wouldn't you say something? I mean, I know he was a little bit flustered because he's got, the whole thing with Eddie and the panto and stuff. But wouldn't you just say like, "Oh, I'd like to catch up and chat about something. Give me a bell."
It's about Christmas or it's about New Year,
Mike, call me back. Roy is dead. Nothing important.
Yeah, imagine the disappointment finding out Roy's still alive. Mike's like finally shot of him.
Do you think there's any possibility that Vicky will turn out to be Victoria, the slave master, and Blake will be at the hotel, and the whole thing will just fall into place?
Something like that.
It's not, though, is it?
No.
I hope we get them all back. That'll be a nice treat. That was there you go, Keri. There's a little bit of positivity from me. I was quite excited about the thought of having Vicky back.
Kirsty gave it a good go, though, didn't she? I mean, when she was saying like, "Well, I've noticed on the roster that it'll just be Kathy," and Oliver's like, Are you saying Kathy's shit?" And she was like, "No." And then she was like, "Okay, what can I say next?" And she went, "Well, after my slave master husband blew up the hotel, we can't risk any more bad reputation for Grey Gables." The bit I loved about Oliver was in the end he just went, "What the fuck's it got to do with you, Kirsty?"
Yes. Yeah. He was great this week, all round.
Also, would she not get a massive telling off from him for trying to kind of, everything we're criticizing Lynda for? It's like, just a second, you're trying to mess with the rota of our business to try and because you're secretary for a mad old cow who's trying to get her panto off the ground. So I keep, what are we supposed to call it? The
mysteries
and the passion.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's the nativity and the passion, and they're all part of the mysteries, aren't they?
Yeah, they're are a mystery, to be honest.
I thought one of Kirsty's earlier plans might have been to catfish Roy into thinking he had a definite shag that would keep him in Ambridge. So she was going to create a fake persona on one of these bloody shagger apps he's on and convince him to stay. But no, it wasn't that, sadly.
No. I mean, Kirsty, is she that thick? Honestly, could she not have just said, "No,
Yes.
I'm not doing that, Lynda"? And all this bloody stuff with Philip and Blake.
She's
And
got nothing else to do, has she? By her own admission.
yeah, that is true. She needs to get all over the bloody rewilding, or she needs something in her life, doesn't
She
she?
got excited by a kestrel, for God's sake. I mean, if you go for a walk in the countryside, which is where they live, kestrels are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. And she was talking about it like she'd, I don't know, seen a dodo.
You'd have to class that as a result in rewilding.
If a dodo showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hats off to Rex for that one. Didn't see that. Even Robin might be impressed at that.
Yeah. Look, under these brambles.
Listen, I know you've brought back an extinct bird, but I'm having lunch with a celebrity. I'm having lunch with Salt Bay this week, so I can't come down.
Oh dear. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the bit where Kirsty and Rex were in the secret garden and were chatting to each other about the various creatures and flora and fauna and what have you. I actually like that.
The rewilding is definitely one of the kind of agricultural plots that I've, my ears perk up. It's, some of the other stuff is a bit of a snooze fest, which is obviously sort of aimed at the farmers, but the rewilding is fascinating, isn't it? The whole concept.
Yeah, after I re-listened today, when I accidentally gave myself 3 hours at work to listen to it when I went into work when I didn't need to, and I actually sat there thinking I wouldn't mind doing rewilding. Actually, if I went back to England and found myself living in the countryside, that sounds like something I'd like to do.
I mean, it sounds like you don't really have to do much, do you? You just sort of let arable go wild.
So it's a bit like not mowing the lawn.
Yeah, you watch it happen. So then there are brambles, butterflies, birds, mice, voles, bugs, beetles, goldfinch. Oh, a charm of goldfinches, wasn't it?
Yes.
That they found enchanting. And they definitely were bonding a bit, weren't they, together? Did you not feel that there was a bit of
Yes, I've written here
chemistry?
Kirsty and Rex, question mark, exclamation mark in my notes. But there's that connection with the nature side of things.
Yeah. Rex came across, I thought, really thoughtful and reflective and sensitive in that passage.
What's the collective noun for archers? For the Archers family?
A twat of archers.
Twat of archers? A smug of archers?
A smug of archers is quite good.
Yeah, smug of archers, that works.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that was no. Actually, you both talked me around. I feel like there was quite a lot of positive stuff because I enjoyed that as well. Like when I was kind of successfully ignoring Kirsty, I was kind of buying into Rex's enthusiasm. I mean, his enthusiasm. I mean, the only person who matched it really was Eddie, as he sort of absolutely crushed any attempts by Oliver to sort of get in the way of his dream of the Grundys going to the ball.
What's happening there? Is that someone pretending to be stupid so they get what they want, or is he just oblivious to the fact that he's trying to cancel? Because that there are people that will pretend to not understand what you're trying to tell them in order to get their own way.
What do you mean when Oliver was saying, you do realise this is contingent upon...
Well, it wasn't even that. Prior to that, when he was saying, like, no, Eddie, and he was like, oh, the ballroom. And Oliver was already saying no, and he wasn't hearing it. So is he deliberately not hearing it?
I didn't like that because he was taking advantage of Oliver's kindness, and it felt horrible, I thought.
Yes, and he's already... When he sent him down to the bull to pretend to be sad for Jolene and Kenton, that was enough. When he didn't know how to act sad.
There's a lot of that recently, isn't there? You've got Kirsty acting as proxy for Lynda. You've got Oliver acting as a proxy for Eddie.
All perfectly normal things that would happen in any of our lives.
They all behave, yeah. And there was one of the things that kind of irritated me slightly about the whole thing with Eddie is, if you've accepted that you've got Grundys coming into the building to party, does it really matter which room it is or how big it is? If anything, put them in the biggest room, because then you've got a hope of containing them. They'll all be, you can shut the doors and hope the noise doesn't escape. If you had them in the smallest room, that's when it's going to be most likely they're going to start Joe Grundying all the way around the building and getting up to mischief. If you assume that they're as bad as everyone fears.
But bless Oliver, he thought it was an intimate family affair. He was going to put them in a room that was something like 2 meters by 4 meters or something. It sounded like a bloody cupboard. It was Matthew's pantry.
Well, come on. You've seen my pantry. You've been inside my pantry, Keri.
I have. Yeah. But so I think Oliver, he's been a bit naive, hasn't he? He should have just set things out completely rigidly. Like, you've got this room, you've got to use the bar, you can't bring your own. Any catering, you've got to get in. You can have a maximum of 30 guests. But none of that happened, did it? It was just because he said himself, didn't he? I don't really quite understand how it happened. 1 minute I'd offered him a meeting room. I looked at my phone, and the next thing I knew, Eddie was booking the ballroom somehow.
One minute I'd rented them my house, and the next minute they're living there for close to 2 decades.
Yes.
Even Roy had to point that out to him, didn't he? He was like, "Well, you are living in your own house."
Yeah, I want to repay them the kindness they've shown me of living in my own home.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I did feel that. Like, he mentioned the ballroom, and before he could even finish the sentence, Eddie was away with it. I didn't like that thing with Roy where he was being really lovely to Eddie's face, and then the moment he went away, Oliver floated the idea of giving them a room at Grey Gables, and Roy was like, "What, the Grundys? Why
Yeah.
would you do that?" And I was like, "Oh, shut up, you twat!" Like, what? Question for both of you, and maybe there is some external fan fiction site out there, or even the BBC might have it. What does Roy wear to work at his job, do you think?
Well, he's in a hotel, isn't he?
Is he smart casual, or do you think he's kind of like little tight imperial Star Wars collar number, or is he suit shirt tie?
I don't like Roy, so I'm putting him in one of those horrible kind of like faux Victorian kind of basically he looks like a snooker player from the 70s.
Okay, I like that, with like a big frilly
frontage.
What is that called? That thing? It's got a name, hasn't it?
Ooh,
Like
I
And
don't...
it was always nicotine stained in the 70s.
Was
Oh.
it?
Yeah,
What's that?
that's my memory of those
What
things.
was those frilly down the front of your shirt things? Do you mean?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know what you said. Cummerbund, then, didn't you, Peter? But that's round your belly, isn't it? Yeah. I hope he's got a cummerbund on.
Just in case no one knows this, it's just one of those facts you need to know. You know that Bill Werbenek used to tax deduct his beer consumption because it stopped him having the DTs and the shakes when he was playing.
Oh, he drank a lot, didn't he? He would need a big cummerbund. He would.
Yeah. Chain smoking and drinking his way through every match. So, for instance, Jakob takes himself far too seriously, but ultimately there is some jeopardy to what he does, like a slip of the hand and he can kill someone's much beloved pet. I mean, jobs like mine, jobs like Roy's, they just don't matter. So when someone takes them quite so seriously, it's always kind of like, it sheds a very bad light on them in my book. Roy's way too serious about his role, at Grey Gables.
Like when Tracy was on the phone and he came steaming over, didn't he? Saying, "I've told you about having personal phone calls." And she was like, "Well, it was Lynda and she rang me. So, and it's about a thing you're in. So I thought you'd be
I'm Tracy and everyone likes me. So, back off."
Do you think they're setting us up to love Roy as Judas then, being this kind of character? I like the way that Tracy characterizes, like, "Oh, you're playing the baddie." That was fantastic.
Yeah.
She's not wrong. I mean, it's not controversial, is it?
Well, Lynda suggested that Judas was more complex than that, didn't she? But that might fit into Judas, Lynda being a dick again, as you said. I like the way also that the whole God thing was continuing throughout this week. I mean, I don't know if we've still got any religious listeners because Keri decided to tweet out this week that there is no God through our official Twitter account.
I was
So,
shocked. News
tell
Well,
you
to me.
what, I mean, you know, I get out of work, I open Twitter, and it's like a bombshell.
look, I just put "there is no God" in capital letters. How do you like them apples? It was just a sort of rhetoric. It's not a rhetorical question. It's almost a rhetorical statement. What I really meant by that was to Lynda, you know, you're seeking this thing that perhaps doesn't even exist.
I mean, wasn't the last pod titled "God is Dead"?
Well, yeah.
I
Well,
mean, we've really set our stall out here, I think. But I mean, anyway,
I mean, I am an atheist, but I wasn't necessarily speaking from my own perspective. I was sort of, it was supposed to be chucking that out there to Lynda.
yeah,
So I hope I
their
didn't offend anybody with that.
their options had dried up, hadn't they? Because they'd been in touch. I mean, you know, if you're seeking someone to search anyone related to God, the last person you need to be speaking to is the Romans, and they rang Roman to ask him if he could suggest anyone. And he suggested last week this woman who'd been in Peaky Blinders and Sherlock, and she's already been snapped up by. Oh, geez, I was going to call it Hungerford's, Underwoods, isn't it?
Yeah, the Santa's Grotto.
Yeah,
at
so
Underwood.
presumably, like, she's playing a dead elf.
Yeah.
Keri, this is very gratifying. It's a return to form from Matthew after last week's Patagonia debacle.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying this. You know,
I've had
I
some
actually laughed
wonderful.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some wonderful Patagonia praise.
Have
That's
you?
hard to say. Hang on, that's alliteration, isn't it? If I say I've had some profound Patagonia praise
From people.
Can I ask as well, why is the bull booked out for weeks upstairs?
Yeah, I did wonder that.
because it's necessary for the plot, isn't it? I mean, that's it. I mean, it's the boring answer, but the point you're making is the lack of consistency, right? Like, you know, the pendulum just swings wildly all over the place. You know, whenever you hear about these long running serials, like, you know, whether it's The Simpsons or whether it's like Cheers, the script writers tell you there's these kind of dossiers or personas written for all the different characters and all the different situations, and you'd think that it would just be sort of like the bull. It's like, just for the sake of the audience and the sake of the ease of writing, the bull's always empty, the bull's always full. But it's just like, no, they're just whatever's needed to service the plot is what they chuck in, and it does kind of grate a bit. And
Yeah.
I'm not even that pedantic.
The bull is fully booked, and so is the village hall.
Yeah.
Who's in there, and what are they doing? Do you think maybe Rob has booked the bull, the room above the bull, and he's living there?
Maybe if they played peanut rent for living in an absolutely huge house, they could maybe move a bit of furniture around and do it there.
Yeah.
Crazy idea. Or maybe if they had a huge field, they could chuck a marquee in there. Or, you know,
Yeah.
anyway.
Or maybe if Eddie had actually listened to Clary, none of this would be happening, and they'd just be having a nice little family gathering in their own home.
I do like the sound of what they're going to do, though, because they're bringing the cider, last year's cider brew. They're going to. Fred is on decks, which I'm very excited about, with bringing his traveling roadshow. What's it called? Disco Biscuits, his company. I can't remember what it's called. But I was hoping because there's like, he's always really pissed off that Russ gets in on the act. I really want Russ to come out of the shadows and turn out to be like some early 90s rave MC, and he's going to get the crowd going in the ballroom. I don't know. I'll step aside to Peter to do Russ
No. Not after the vicious attacks on WhatsApp about my impersonation skills. But,
they were great. We were praising your impersonations. The
Matthew
Queen last week. He couldn't
Matthew
remember you'd done any. I remembered.
I did mention, someone praised you on Facebook. Sorry, I'm not writing on the Facebook right now, but someone did praise your impressions last week, saying they'd made you laugh, and I said, "Do you mean Peter's Alan / Leonard / Harrison impression?"
Well, you know, I mean, I would call my style efficient. as a response to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's I've got a theory. Maybe this whole plot, maybe it's going to go disastrously wrong at Grey Gables, and maybe this will put a crack in the relationship between Oliver and the Grundys, and to try and sort out the house thing once and for all. Maybe it's going to be so raucous and so awful that actually Oliver will be sort of feel quite like feel like his generosity has been finally sort of exploited too much.
Yeah, I think we all are supposed to worry about that, but there's no way on the Archers they will allow such a momentous occasion as a 40th wedding anniversary vow renewal to not be lovely.
If they were going to screw with anyone, it might be the Grundys, and then and then copy and paste all of our individual rants about how unfairly the Grundys are treated.
We've said the sign, the albatross, has always been like everything's going to be fine on the Archers. But this week it was Eddie saying, "We'll behave."
Yeah.
I promise you. And then it's just like cut to ties round the heads, the place on fire.
He was a right cheeky sod when he sort of went, "Oh, don't worry, Clary will be round there the next morning with a mop and bucket."
I know.
Happy wedding anniversary.
Yeah. It was a bit shitty, isn't it? And like Mia I like the way that Mia was brought in towards the end of the week to just say, this isn't right, what's happening, and if you don't like it. And by the way, I tell you what, they've been amazingly COVID free in Ambridge. The quickest way to spread a virus, a secondhand chocolate fountain.
Yes. That someone's left in a barn.
I never touch those things when they're first hand.
Of course not.
Might as well snog everyone at the wedding, which I've done.
Well, maybe many a true word spoken in jest. That might be a very topical way of bringing it back.
Well, there was that Keri, one of the weeks that it was just me and you hosting. You had that fantasy that Josh's eggs were going to give everyone at the Casey wedding the shits.
Yes.
And it didn't happen.
No.
But maybe this is it. Maybe it'll be the chocolate fountain disaster.
I did look up earlier on while I was waiting for you guys to come online. I did look up per capita cases, and we are crazily high in terms of how our COVID levels compared to the rest of the world. So,
see you in December, guys.
So yeah, it's quite it is weird that it hasn't. Well, I know it's the BBC. I know they have to be apolitical, but it's not a question of politics. It's just a statement of fact, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
COVID.
Well, they mentioned Brexit, haven't they, recently? And someone ought to have COVID or do a test or something.
Because I have to get Cyrus tested every time he has a cough, and it breaks my heart because it's like he's like, oh, am I going to go and have the tickle test? It's like, yeah, it's the tickle test, and off we go. Stick stuff up his nose.
Wow, I was surprised today that when I come over at Christmas, I have to take I can use my certificate to come in, but on day 2 I have to take a test. But I have to pay for that.
Yes, you do.
You don't have to pay for that in Portugal. Why am I paying for it in the UK?
Because you've got government who are on the grift, and it's a way of them harvesting money.
It's a total grift.
Oh God, yeah. When I went to Spain, I had to pay twice, out there and then back here. One was 59 quid, one was 79 quid.
I think hopefully they will have a case in soon, just because it would be, it needs to be talked about. If nothing else, just like you were hinting, just so that it kind of keeps the whole thing relevant.
But it should have been Bert, shouldn't it?
Well, I was about to crack a joke about, Bert's last words was, "I can't taste my pint."
My pickled egg.
Yeah, just something. Yeah, I like the way Rex said earlier in the week. Like, what if you're going to go, that's the way to do it. Choking on one of Jolene's dodgy pickled eggs.
I thought that was again lovely. I think I've been bewitched by Rex this week because he was saying some really nice things about his feelings for Bert and how content Bert was with the very simple things of life, like roof over his head and his lovely Frida and friends in the pub.
Peter, I think Keri's missing Brian She's starting to fancy Rex.
Right, he's the methadone to the raw hit of heroin that is Brian Aubrey.
Where is Brian?
Well, I tell you what, while we don't have Brian, we don't have Alice.
That
True.
is a very good point. So who is? I mean, I've been turned around on everything this week. Like, all the stuff that I thought was I was being negative about, you guys have proved me wrong. Can you do the same trick for the Alice of the week, the kind of the annoyance of the week that was Harrison being absolutely dog shit at his job?
No. Harrison and Kirsty were dim and dimmer, weren't they?
Yeah,
This
it
week.
was shocking.
I mean, and Harrison sort of going, I'm so sorry, as if that's making anything okay.
Wasn't just that, Keri. In the first clip, he said to Inspector Norris, I'm really, really sorry. And then later he went, I'm so sorry. I was like, are you just trying to kill time here, bub? What the f*** are you doing?
Yeah, but transpose sorry for stupid, and I would buy those lines, to be honest.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, it's, there's stupid, and like you said, and then there's stupid talking to stupid. He should not have told Kirsty.
Nope.
But then Kirsty shouldn't have been stupid enough to be like, I've devised this amazing plan, Roy.
Roy, it's not like in the past I went round the streets looking for them. I've got previous. It's not like I got previous. It's the first time, obviously, being thick as pig shit.
Is that Leonard with a cold?
Yeah, it's one accent for everyone.
That was so good. Yeah, they f***ing deserve everything they get, those two, honestly. Just leave Philip alone. Leave him alone. He's got nothing to do. Like, just deal with Blake and help him realise everything.
Maybe even leave Blake alone, because he's already got some, like you could. I don't know. I was about to personalize it, but not in a weird way, but sort of like we all have those moments where you're just like, do you know what? I'll tell you what a good example is. You're walking down the street, you see someone collapse, and your instinct is to walk over and help. And suddenly you think, no, they've already got 3 people around them. They're doing a good job. I'm just helping for the sake of helping now. And it's like, yes, no matter how much if Philip Harrison and Kirsty's desire to help Blake is to service their own egos and salve their own conscience. He's already got Jazza. He's already got Jim. He's already got plenty of people doing a better job.
Yeah.
Move away.
Very good point. They're just messing everything up, aren't they? Right, royally. Annoying.
Conversely, I was once walking through the horse fair in the main part of Bristol, and on a hot Saturday afternoon, and I was in my mid-20s, and there was a guy who looked quite normal, probably, in his 50s, 60s, lying on the floor in a suit, and everyone was walking past him, and it was like that scene in Midnight Cowboy when John Voight first gets to New York. And I got about 50 yards up the road, and I was like, no, something's wrong there. So I went back, and I rolled him over, and I'm like, are you all right, mate? And the guy tried to punch me. And then I said, oh, okay. And I kind of leant back, and then he went, kill him, kill him, kill him.
Did he hit the Patagonia joke as well?
But did you think it was weird that he just got a little ticking off and that was it?
Well, he didn't. It wasn't quite a ticking off, was it?
Nothing formal's happening. He's I think is Kerry's point, but then also I agree with Matthew. There's a kind of reputational, and like he's stunk it up, hasn't he? Pretty badly. Like that his relationship with his boss has got to be shot.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, that's an inspector, isn't it? That's not the same woman that came in and like cuffed Kirsty and shoved her face down on the kitchen table, was it, in front of Roy?
No, that was Pat. No.
Do you remember that? There was someone who came in and just said that they were arresting her as being complicit.
Yes, actually, yes.
And
I do remember.
I don't know if that was that character, because today's character was in the inspector, wasn't it? It was the boss, whereas I think the other one was detective. I mean, Harrison. I mean, really, Harrison should just be litter picking on the green by now, shouldn't he? He failed to detect that scarecrow was Alice. I mean, he's just bloody useless.
Of course.
Or just like sitting there with the speed gun, nicking Brian every other week.
Yeah, that's what someone on Twitter said. He should be on traffic, and that's it. Like, just get him away from these cases.
I like the way that he decided to bring it up with Kirsty just before, like, the rehearsals or whatever, he was like, "Can I have a word?" And she was like, "We're starting in 5 minutes." And he was like, "This won't take long. You're a fucking prick. Now hand me my fucking Jesus robe."
Yes, he's Jesus, isn't he? Oh God. It's weird that Lynda hasn't sent any of them the script as well, isn't it? I'm sure there's something about that. Do you think they're in rap or something? And we're going to hear Harrison and Roy rapping.
Yeah, well, if you're going to get someone rapping or MCing, get Russ in. I hear he's an old hand at it.
I'm not looking forward to him in future episodes really beating himself up about it to Fallon.
Oh, that'd be boring. Yeah, because we already had the big kind of I don't know if I'm any good, Fallon, and all this sort of stuff. And then of course there was the radio Harrison, where the whole village ended up banging their pots like a demented, Nigel Farage.
Isn't Fallon just going to be too concerned with Natasha moving in on her domain? As we heard in tonight's episode, like Fallon is going to lose part of the orchardy outside part of the tea rooms to Natasha's.
Who knows where she's going to end up? She seems to be just eyeing up every spare space, doesn't she?
Isn't there a wonderful Silence of the Lambs style thing going to happen here with Kirsty and Philip? Like she's going to keep visiting him, and it's going to be what's the character? Cannibal Lectern, isn't it?
Get Michael Sheen on the case. I still get people liking that, even now. Liking the Michael Sheen.
Yeah, it's like my silver
video.
jacket tweet. I get about 50 likes a day, and it just keeps rolling over.
Oh dear.
Talking of social media, Keri, what is our Twitter handle?
Oh, very good.
How should people get in touch with us on the social medias?
Very smooth. On Twitter, it's at the Cider Shed Pod.
And you said you gave us some good news, didn't you? You said that we've got prodigious numbers now.
We do, yeah. We're way over 1,500 followers now.
Yeah.
So that's not bad, seeing as how we've only been going since April.
Yeah, it's the thing with the pod is, as I've always said, like if you imagine the number of people who listen as like going to do a stand-up gig or kind of like going to like in a pub or something, equally whatever, like humble. It's like wow, it's a lot of people, and it's quite anyway. It's very exciting.
Trying to fit them all in a ballroom.
Exactly. Yeah, that was Matthew's pantry, my little office. We've all got sort of tiny spaces we could try and cram people into. Emails, please. Email us with any feedback, any suggestions. We've still got to. We threatened to do the Warbis episode, so give us is that something you want? So yeah, do send us any feedback you got. That would be great. And Matthew, how are we doing on the Instagram and Facebook?
Well, Instagram, you can find us at the Cider Shed Pod. It's the same as Twitter. We have a few followers joined us this week, so I'll start posting up some things for the coming pod this week. And we are on Facebook at the Cider Shed Podcast. That's a Facebook group. Yeah, the Keri episode. There's one prevailing question that keeps coming up. I don't know. It got to the point this week where I just had to put in the comments like, it's not this admin's tale to tell, and everyone was just like, ooh. And I got a lot of gifts.
What this week?
Well, the question was posted by Lisa Singh on September the 27th.
Okay. And that question was, go on, just say what it is.
She said, why were you depodded from other, in brackets, not nearly as good, close brackets, Archer's podcasts?
Okay. That question. Okay.
Follow on. You guys keep alluding to it, and it's driving me potty, in brackets, question mark, poddy, with curiosity, which is very witty. And yeah, many comments after that. And, I've chimed in because I'm a sociable cove. And I think my last comment was like, it's not this particular Facebook admin's tale to tell, to be honest. And I got lots of woo. I've got gifts including "Can I speak to the manager?" "Tell me now." That "Can I speak to the manager?" was from Rob Williams. "Tell me now" was from Kay, and I've got "Oh come on" from Liam P. Rayner, which I think is the guy from Saturday Night Live pretending to be the odious Jim Jordan, the American politician.
Well, let's have a little think about that, shall we?
Yes.
Well, there's one before we head off. One thing I should say is Keri has managed to pull off what I consider to be top 3 possible coups in terms of potential guests for the show upcoming. So we will. I mean, hopefully, it's not in the bag yet, is it, Keri? We need to be a little bit. I'm optimistic.
Well, we can go as far as to say the truth, which is what we're always about, which is yes, it's a man, has said he will happily come on the pod, and we're looking at a date in December. Yeah, and he's one of our favourite characters.
Yes, and also we'll work out by next week. We'll also work out all the dates we're going to do for Christmas, how we're going to handle that stuff, and have all that information. Anyway, so hopefully next week there'll be information about the Keri pod, about this potential exciting guest, and also whether we might how we're going to handle a Christmas break. So yeah, all to come.
Well, Garrulus Glandarius, I guess.
Is that something from Lord of the Rings?
It's the Latin name for the J.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was watching Lord of the Rings yesterday. It sounded like something from that.
Yeah, I've had to teach some of my kids that, son of is not how we say it in English. We say that person's son, and they're like, but that's not what it says in Lord of the Rings. I was like, shut it, nerd.
Anyway, yes, see you next week, everybody.
Have fun all.
See ya, bye.